case. Why did you decide to bring this suit?
Well, basically, our economy really revolves around this concept of free competition in the marketplace. And we know that through time, that competition, it breeds innovation. It helps consumers have more choices. It lowers prices. And unfortunately, what we've seen from these two big tech companies, Facebook and then more recently here, Google, is efforts to engage in anti-competitive conduct, monopolistic conduct that had the effect of killing competition, of hurting consumers and hurting small businesses. And that's why you saw this really sweeping bipartisan action by state AGs and the Justice Department to bring lawsuits to stop this behavior once and for all.
Now, Google has made the case that the government's argument is flawed, that people don't use Google because they have to, but because they want to. In response to this particular suit, the company today saying this lawsuit seeks to redesign search in ways that would deprive Americans of helpful information and hurt businesses' ability to connect directly with customers. We look forward to making that case in court. The company is basically saying that this complaint would force Google to make search less useful. What's your response to that?
Well, it's just not true. I mean, I'm not surprised that that is a response from the company, but no way do we want people to have less ability to search. We, in fact, want people to have a greater ability to search. And what Google has done over time is essentially do all sorts of things that keep us, the public consumers, from being able to actually search as effectively as we could. I'll tell you what they do, for example, right? Sometimes when you buy a car or you buy a cell phone, you're going to see that Google is the dominant, search engine. And that's done because Google's forced and has entered into agreements with those entities that's made Google the dominant search engine. So that's one way they keep other search engines out of the mix, out of competition. The other thing they do is they are a search engine. And so, they've used that power to basically make sure that when people conduct searches, our investigation showed it was Google-sponsored searches, Google-sponsored findings that were coming to the top, including, Google paid advertisements, meaning advertisements that were paid to Google. And so, that's just not fair. That's playing games with the market. That's playing games with searching. They also protected their own profits, by inflating their profits so that advertisers, would favor advertising on the Google platform. And then we've seen time and time again them discriminate against other sites, whether it was TripAdvisor or Angie's List or Yelp, by basically depriving them of access to pretty valuable real estate on the search results page. So bottom line, Google's conduct has led to less privacy, less innovation, less choice for customers, and it's a problem. It also happens to be illegal, and that's why we've taken them to court.
It sounds like quite a case, but one of your peers, the Attorney General of Iowa, said antitrust law is really hard for plaintiffs. Do you think you face an uphill battle given that Google has deep pockets and can throw, almost an unlimited amount of money at top lawyers to fight this?
Well, Google does have a lot of money. Facebook does have a lot of money. But I know that our lawyers and our teams are more than up to the task, and we will do the job as we've done the job throughout pursuing this investigation. And look, I understand and appreciate the importance of technology. I'm here in Massachusetts, and we have had the benefit of a huge, vibrant technology, ecosystem. I support that. But what I don't support is anti-competitive tactics. And, we've heard too much time and time again about some of the tactics used by Google, used by Facebook, and we feel very confident about the evidence that we'll be presenting.
So what is the remedy that you would like to see?
Well, I think really you can look at a range of remedies. Certainly the first thing that needs to happen is these companies need to stop doing the things that they are doing. Google needs to make right and be fair and square with its search engine policies and the way it does its contracting. Facebook needs to stop and just end this buy or bury strategy, whether they either try to buy you up, or if you don't want to be bought, they'll bury you by not letting you have access to the platform. These behaviors, this conduct needs to stop. That's the first remedy. The second remedy is that we need to look at what needs to happen to restore competition. See, our argument is they've done things that have reduced competition, eliminated competition. So in order to make that right, we have to consider a number of things, including potentially divestiture of assets or reformation of some of these contracts. It's too early to judge what is most appropriate here, except to say that the goal will be to preserve competition.
Now, I'm curious for your take on the case that was brought by the other attorneys general led by Texas yesterday. I presume you may have had access to the same documents that they did, showing some pretty egregious behavior by Google. Why didn't you sign on to that suit?
Well, that is a different case. It centers around practices involving the displaying of ads and the targeting and potential targeting of ads to viewers. I decided to invest resources and time in this case because I think fundamentally it goes to the structure and the underpinnings of Google and how they've built out their product and service, and in a way that we allege is anti-competitive, is monopolistic, and harms consumers and harms innovation. And so that's why I chose to bring this case. And again, I'm sure that that both cases will be pursued vigorously in court.
Now, Attorney General Peterson of Nebraska earlier talked about how his concern really started to, mount after a meeting in 2018, a national meeting of attorneys general on Google's data usage. And I wonder if there's anything you remember from that meeting. What was the sort of spark that led your own concerns to start to mount?
Well, I do recall any number of meetings of AGs, but this has been long the subject of discussion. I know for our office, we've been paying attention to this for years and have worked very, very intensely with a multi-state group on this. I think that, you'd have to be completely asleep at the switch if you didn't realize the extent to which platforms have come to dominate our lives. How news is delivered, how we access even healthcare, finance, school. And, what's important is that we celebrate and honor and incent innovation, right? But we have to, at the same time, make sure that we're looking out to see that others in the marketplace aren't engaged in anti-competitive conduct. And basically, the word on the street out there was if you didn't play with Facebook and if you didn't submit to or relent to Mark Zuckerberg's desires, then you were going to face the quote wrath of Mark and basically be buried. And in fact, that's what happened for those who, for example, tried to step on Facebook's turf. I mean, look at all the companies that have started up and gone by the boards because, Facebook was out there looking to kill competitors. And, it's not that we don't understand that healthy competition is part of our market economy, but the laws are very clear, including the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act, both federal laws that make clear that there are certain anti-competitive actions that are illegal. And that's what we're addressing here.
Since you mentioned Mark Zuckerberg, I'm curious, do you think Google is more egregious than certain other big tech giants like Facebook and Amazon? I mean, there is an irony in that, you've got the government scrutinizing all of these companies, and yet these companies citing each other as the competition.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not going to rank. What I will say is that we have some really big tech giants out there, two of whom we believe have engaged in for far too long illegal and anti-competitive practices. And so, we want to make sure we make that right for our economy, for innovation, and for the public.
One last question on a slightly different topic. We know now that Russian state actors are behind this massive hack attack through a company called SolarWinds on various U.S. government agencies. What is your take on what we know so far? There seems to be some indication that what exactly happened is quite alarming.
Well, yes, and I'm just learning more about this now. I will tell you, this points to the work that is absolutely imperative. For far too long, I think that we have been exposed. And my hope is that with the new administration, the Biden Harris administration will do everything they can, as I'm sure they will, to lock down and make sure that we are protected from assaults, whether it's assaults that are, emanating from within our borders, or importantly, and as we've seen in the past, assaults that are emanating from foreign sources and foreign countries. It is absolutely imperative. As a state attorney general, I've understood and have handled cases where there have been these kinds of breaches and breaches of privacy and the misuse of information. This is incredibly harmful. It is a matter of homeland security. It is a matter of public safety, and all resources and coordination, local, state, and federal, need to be brought to bear on the issue of cybersecurity and protecting the United States.